Okay, this is week 2 of bidding and contracts class. I'd like to just go ahead and put some of this on video because when we talked to the group that met in class, we covered a lot. And so there are handouts available online in the online classroom. So what we're going to cover today, actually, it looks like this. It's Landscape Bidding and Contracts, Chapter 1, Budgeting and Business Planning. And so the budgeting process, what we're trying to do is base our bids, our landscape bids, on real costs. And so you have actually the costs associated with producing the product. You have the costs associated with just running the business. And then you have some costs that are associated with the project that aren't actually like what goes in the ground. So the purpose of this is to start to clarify what all those costs are so that you'll know whether or not all of your costs are covered when you produce a bid. You'll know whether or not you're making money. You'll know how much you're allotting for labor. So that's the purpose of all this, is to start to identify the costs. And so one of the costs is the cost of doing business. And honestly, I think this is the hardest segment of this class, is to look at an annual budget for a company and to figure out the overhead cost. And so what we're going to do is we're going to follow along with the examples that are put forth in the book of just showing, using some industry ratios, using your own exercise of putting together a company profile for a landscape installation company, and using some of our ratios of how much income can you actually produce per employee, because you're counting your field hours. So just as an overview, what I'd like to go over chapter 1 in your text, this text, how to price landscape and irrigation projects. The budgeting process produces kind of standards and expectations and targets for each division. We're just going to go over landscape installation, but for sales, direct costs, your gross profit margin, we'll go over what that is, general and administrative overhead, your net profit margin, your labor burden, field labor hours, equipment, and sort of an average wage calculation. So it's sort of all that groundwork of figuring out what those costs are that will help you identify your cost, and then that's the basis for the overhead calculation for your bid, because everyone can go and see what your materials cost. Every single person that is out there trying to get a landscape installation job will know how to call the nursery and get a tree price, or you know, the Lowe's or whoever for a fence price, or the stone company for stone and gravel, for mulch. Everybody knows how to go get those prices, and you know what you're paying your employees, but you may not know how to recover the overhead of running your business, which is the rental or lease for this facility that you're in, administrative help, electricity bill, just keeping the lights on, different types of professional and licensing type costs and requirements, copy paper, you know, so all those costs have to be factored in. And our bidding method in the book and the budgeting method shows us how to identify those costs and then recover those costs in a bid. So in the next video, we'll go over this in a little bit more detail. So this is the end of video 1 on this lecture subject, and there will be several more.